Well, welcome to another edition of Exotic Gardening UK. Now in mid-November, and up north in Yorkshire and Derbyshire we've had some terrible flooding. Thankfully where I live it's pretty much on a hill. We're not near the River Calder as such, but we do get surface flooding here because we've had an exceptional amount of rain. So all the wood chip area here, this has been completely underwater in end of this week should I say. So basically it was about 5 centimetres across all the wood chip at least, so it went halfway up the raised beds over there. All the paths here, this was all completely full of water. So where I'm walking now I would have been up to my ankles in water. And this is showing that my raised beds have worked, so all the areas around are raised up higher than the path. So all these areas, although they're completely saturated, there wasn't really any areas that were water above the base of the plants. And if I go over the bridge, obviously the pond is absolutely full to the brim. This is all raised up, so if you remember, my decking paths are built on sleepers, so all the beds in the middle, they are 30 centimetres above the original ground level. So although it's exceptionally wet, these plants were not standing in water. As you can see, it's mid-November, I've got lots of jobs still to do. I need to protect this bed over here with some shelters. Leaving it a little late now, especially with all this rain we've had. If this were to freeze hard, then it wouldn't be good for these plants. We've had a few frosts. We had a frost after the freeze, after the flooding. So we really need to get on with building shelters for these. And also, unfortunately, in the greenhouse, that is in the area, it's a bit lower in the garden where the wood chip paths are, and all my onset bananas were just resting on the ground in there because midweek I put them in there after being draining for a few days, and it means that everything was absolutely soaking wet. So here, this was where it was completely deep in water. Insulated the door of the greenhouse, and if you just go in, all this was completely soaking in water, about 1 or 2 centimetres across the base all over here. So it meant all my onset bananas, which weren't in pots that time, they were just resting on the ground, and the root balls were soaking in wet, cold water for a good day or two, which is not good for them at all. And also all these pots here, these little plants, these were on the ground with the onsets. I've just moved them now, and these are absolutely sopping soggy wet, so it's not good for these plants that want to be just ticking over winter. So it's not a good start to the winter season, but I've done my best now to rectify that. I've put the onsets in pots, not with any soil or anything, so just bare roots in there if you take a look. But it just means they're resting off the ground by a centimetre or so, just in case it does get wet in here again. And the important thing with these is for the plants not to rest against the bubble wrap. Obviously the outside edge of the greenhouse is at its coldest, and also lots of condensation. So if you look over here, you can see all the water dripping down cold and wet, which we don't want. But if you have these bananas resting against that cold and wet for ages, condensation and just water forms there every day and stays wet and can rot off the bananas. So you don't want plants touching the outside if at all possible. The odd leaf on the thing like the Brugmansia is okay, you might lose a leaf, but you don't want to put all the plant against it. And also, just for now, I'll put the fan on full whack to move the air, put the heater on nice and warm to get it really warm in here. I'm trying to dry it out as much as possible. It's costing a bit of money in heating. I just really want to try and dry as much as I can out of the greenhouse, just to get it so that the onsets especially have a chance to properly dry out and have a decent atmosphere. And then I'll turn it back down to 10 degrees as soon as it's sort of dried out a bit more than it is now. So that's the state of play in the greenhouse and the garden. We're expecting lots more rain, and then obviously we'll get the frosts and a bit of sleet on when we get into winter. So we want to really dry out the best we can in the greenhouse, and also we need to protect the arid plants. All the soft foliage here is getting died back with the frost we've had and all the wet. That's fine because I've got the cuttings in the greenhouse for these. So it's just now time to clear up and get the shelter sorted. I've got to mention this amazing Petunia Siphonia that's been flowering its socks off since June. It's only been fed twice. And look at it, mid-November, it's had frost, it's had gale force winds, it's been absolutely battered by the wind and rain, soaking through. But look at it, it's still in absolute full flower. It's still got loads of flower buds, the foliage is still nice and green, and it's not had to be dead-headed, it keeps going on and on and on. Absolutely amazing plant for containers and pots that'll be growing again next year. So like I said, it's mid-November now, and these Aeoniums are still looking absolutely fantastic. Really plumped up over the summer, filled all the spaces in the front garden between the yuccas and palm trees, and look still as good as they did in midsummer. And they've had a few frosts, so they've had minus 0.8 at worst. Look at the size of that one, here you can see. Beautiful. These blushing beauties have gone a bit more green than they were in summer, but they're still looking in tip-top condition. But now is the time to bring in as many as possible into the greenhouse. So I'll be getting my wheelbarrow and I'll be pulling these up, snapping the rosettes off and bringing them into the greenhouse for winter. So this is the first barrel load of Aeoniums, and I basically just pull them up, as you can see here. There's a few roots but not really much soil, and these are just going to go straight into the greenhouse into some trays, and some of the snapped off rosettes will go into the pots of the other plants that are in there, but mainly they're just going to be left in trays over winter with a bit of soil around them. Might add a little bit of compost as well, and then they won't be watered unless absolutely bone dry and looking like they need a drink. But otherwise, I guess they'll be watered maybe once or twice before March, and that's it. Now we've had several frosts and flooding, but this plant, which should have been inside a long time ago, this prayer plant, is still hanging on in there. It's got some decent foliage, albeit attacked by slugs. And if I want to save this, I really do need to dig this up today and bring it into the greenhouse. And there's also another one down here as well, so I'll dig these up and bring them into the greenhouse. So that's the last barrel load of Aeoniums I'm going to be able to shift and put into the greenhouse. Cleared the majority of the front. It's amazing how many you can fit in a small 8x6 foot greenhouse. So these out here will be left to their own devices over winter. 95% will probably die, if not 100%. But this one here, this clump did survive last winter when it nearly went down to -6, so there's a chance they might survive if you have a mild winter. The rain started again, so it's time really to finish this job and look at creating shelters on the agaves in the back. So that's all the Aeoniums packed into the greenhouse, in the trays, underneath the benches there, in pots, with other plants just randomly plonked in a corner. Not all these will look great in spring, but enough will survive to put on a really good show for next year. There's literally hundreds packed in there. Some have got a bit of soil on, some haven't. And that's what the greenhouse will look like over winter. Won't really be adding any other plants in here. The only space I need extra will be when I need to get the cuttings and put them in bigger pots. So there's a bit of leeway on this bench here, but other than that, I've packed in as much as I possibly can. So that's the greenhouse sorted for winter 2019. And now into the garage. I've put a few other plants. Got the aloe ferox, I think that is. Got a few Aeoniums, cacti, small agaves, and these have got a bit of light from the window there. But the main thing about the garage is it's dry, very dry, so they won't get wet at all in here. Got the Parajubea sunker in here as well, because I don't want to risk that outside this winter. And down there got the Apuntia, I think it's Apuntia robusta, and also the agave mediopicta, so they'll stay in the garage till next spring 2020. Well, I'm afraid I've run out of time today and I've not quite completed all the jobs. Absolutely chucking it down now, which is not helping saturated ground. I've just had time to start the frames for the arid bed, so I've knocked in the posts around the side, but I've not attached the tops yet, but I have just put them over the top, and I will attach them when I've got a bit more time. But it's serving a purpose now in this temporary form. As long as it's not too windy, they'll stay on and stop the worst of the rain going into the crowns of these agaves. Right, it's absolutely chucking it down now, so I'm going to go inside and I'll see you next week for more exotic gardening in winter.